pull me this way. Push the chair that way. Yeah.
Say hi, Burnie.
Yeah, that's good.
We're live to the world, buddy.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Getting my headroom all straightened up here, and let's see what I can do here.
All right, that's gross.
You might want to pot that audio down.
Just checking levels.
Yeah, just checking levels. That's it. Give me this one.
I just pray.
So, how you doing, everyone? Thanks for joining us today. We are on our normal pre-roll while Burnie gets his pillows set up.
Yeah, my background is the most important part of the show. Let's see.
All right, look at that. We got somebody watching.
You know how that is. I'm an artist. I'm an artist.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Yeah, we're going to have a great show today, Tony. I'm very excited about this.
Oh, I am. Yeah. We're going to Onset and Applebox today, so hopefully people will jump in and join the conversation and share the show.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Share the show.
Please. Yes.
If you haven't already, we have a YouTube page, Onset Lighting. If you haven't been over there, it's fantastic. We got so much content over there. Please go and like that page. I think you'll really like it.
You know what, Tony? This is a chance, too. I'm going to just take it for telling people about Onset Lighting, which, of course, we have the full gamut of professional products for the production professional. And that is, we carry lines like Airy, Quasar, Aperture, Kino Flow. We carry all of the heavy hitters in today's production community. I am a gaffer. I own 3 Griffin lighting trucks. I have a couple of vans too. When I buy a light, I buy it, of course, for the production value that it can supply, but I also buy it as an investment. And that's how I look at it. I want that light to pay for itself 500%, 1,000%. Any number of, I want to make as much money from that product that I invest in as I can. And at the same time, supply my clients with what they want. That is the whole idea of what we have come up with at Onset Lighting. My partner, Nick Zagradich, has been selling product in Hollywood for 20 years. He is a product expert. And we really pride ourselves on that. As well, we carry a very large line of prosumer products as well. And that we are focusing down on this new medium, the new medium of professionalism that is live streaming. And we can offer services for you. We can build a studio out of any size. We got packages from $500 up to $2,500. We can take care of whatever needs that you have in that. We can also supply services to stream from a remote location so you can bring your guest on with the least amount of technical expertise or problems that you have. But one of the things that I'm most excited about in this is we also have Onset University right now. And that helps you in your career. We're on a reset now. With all this coronavirus stuff and the industry's entirely down, this is a total reset. It's a reset in your career. It's a reset in the way we will do work. It is a reset on every aspect of the production business model that we have. And I will tell you this, if you thought you missed something in your career before, you're the luckiest person in the world, because now you get to do it over again and you don't have to make those same mistakes. At Onset University, I've taken all my intellectual property and I have put it out there, and it is for free right now. It's normally a $17.97 subscription rate. I've opened it up free for the next 3 months. You go on there and you glean all of that information that you can, because it tells you how to position yourself in the industry. who works in the market you work in. It tells you how to position yourself with a client so you become their number one call, even if you're 2 or 3 right now. It tells you right down to the nitty-gritty, the details, how to answer that first phone call from a client where they always say yes. So this is some of the stuff that we cover. You're lucky I'm not in a big pitch motor. I'd tell you more right now. But I just want you to know that this is a great opportunity that you have right now. Please join me up there. And I'm going to be starting personal coaching too. So career coaching and live streaming coaching, personal coaching about how to reach your market and become a leader in it. So I think I'm out of breath, Tony. Is the show over yet?
Yeah. Do you want to get to the show sometime today?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, let's get into it, buddy.
All right, very good, very good. I'm going to share the show right now. Robert, I tell you, dude, this is a real. This is going to be so great.
Say hi, Burnie.
Talk. Hello. How you doing? I'm sharing the show. This is it. I'm sharing.
Burnie's on an attention span deficit today.
I am a total attention span deficit, Tony. I'm just looking for the show so I can share it to my personal site, because I know I've got a lot of people over there that are big on that. So let me see if I can get that. Here we go. I'm going to share it now. All right. I am shared. There we go. Hey, are we here? All right. Very good. Very good. So have we gone into the opener, Tony? Are we live on the show now? I mean, I know we're live. I know that, but is the show officially started where I introduce my guest?
Yeah, you're definitely. Well, we'll run it again for you. How's that?
And
welcome back, Burnie.
Today. Thank you. Yeah, Robert Jolley, DP, and I have known Robert for years and years. It goes way back. I don't know, 2003, 2004, in that ballpark somewhere. And Robert and I worked on all kinds of little small productions. I had just my van then. And Robert and I were people who always talked about our dreams, talked about the things we wanted to do in the industry. And we would sit there and just, talk and figure out and strategize ways that we could improve our careers and get bigger. And like a lot of relationships, you know what I mean? You take a Y in the road and you split apart. You're still connected. You still know each other. You enjoy every time you get to see each other, but you don't work with each other a lot at any given time. And, I went on to have a career and build Burnie's Grip and Lighting and had a lot of trucks and was sending a lot of jobs out, was very successful. Robert went another way. He went towards the DP route and directing and doing that sort of things, and had a wonderful, fantastic career we're going to talk about today. But Robert is somebody that when I have him back, it reminds me and it reminds both of us how far we've come in this industry. And Robert, I just want to welcome you and thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, you are welcome. Thanks for having me, Burnie. It's good to be back after, I think, 2 years was the last time I was on your show.
Yes, 2 years. And then before that, I don't know if I had seen you. I don't know if I had seen you before that for about 5 years. I mean, it seems like I see you every day on social media, and that's kind of the other skew of this. you always know what someone's up to,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know if we had physically seen each other, and we're still not in the same room. You're where? Where are you coming from?
I'm living in Northwest Idaho. So if you look at a map of Idaho, I live at that part that's really skinny up towards Canada. We're about 2 hours south of the Canadian border in a town called Coeur d'Alene, which
Okay.
you know, some people are familiar with. Others, you know, people have heard the name, and I didn't really know where it was before we moved here, but yeah, I'm hearing a little feedback. Anyway, it's that's where I am. It's a very beautiful place. It's still a little cold up here. That's why I'm still wearing, you know, some warm clothes. But
Yeah,
I'm still a California boy too. I'd love to be wearing some flip flops, shorts, and a t-shirt right now.
exactly. Well, I'm a Northwest guy. You know, I'm originally from Tacoma, Washington, so I certainly know the Idaho, Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon area very, very well. And used to, for years and years, even when I lived in California, I would go up and visit some very dear friends up in Sun Valley, Idaho.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So it specifically Haley, if you know where that's at.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love Idaho. It's a great, great state. So Robert, buddy. So you're working now. I know that you do Alaska Frontier, right?
I did a television show called Alaska: The Last Frontier for Discovery Channel.
Yes.
For 4 years. I was the director of photography for the series for 4 years straight. Prior to that, I worked on the show as a guest camera operator while I was mixing that with other projects I was working on in Hollywood. So it was a good opportunity to network and stepping stone towards another opportunity, which turned into that. So I was working on that show until just last year, 2019, from roughly 2016 to 2019. So my life has almost been exclusively focused on Alaska, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. I've seen all those, and we talked last time. You were right, actively involved in that show directly. Mm-hmm. You know, I've just got to say it was so fascinating to hear all of the stuff and the stories. And you know what? I'll tell you, my wife and I actually watched that show. I would watch it even if we didn't like it because you do it, but we love the show. It's got great characters. I mean, those people are just so nice, and you feel like you're hanging with them. So the way you shoot that is I've just got to very much compliment you. We really enjoy the show.
Thank you.
And people in our industry, we don't watch TV like other people, right?
No, we don't.
You know, we're looking at the shots, we're looking at this, we're looking at that, but I totally lose myself in it and really like it.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, a lot of my friends and family that aren't in the business, they'll ask me, "Hey, have you seen this recent Netflix series or this new show on Amazon or whatever?" And I'll be like, I draw a blank, and I'm like, no, I haven't. They're like, "It's really good. Everyone's watching it." And so I feel like, what you're saying is true. We're in the industry, we're so busy working that in our downtime, at least I'm going to speak for myself, in my downtime, I have other pursuits I like to work on besides just sitting and watching television shows. Although I will admit I've started to get hooked on some older shows on Netflix, courtesy of my better half, Lisa. She's introducing me to all kinds of stuff. So
yes, yes,
I'm trying to keep
Netflix.
Up on the latest greatest so I can have conversations with people.
Yeah. The strangest thing has occurred actually with my wife and I since we've been in lockdown here. And that has been, we, for some reason, have been totally gravitating to Spanish language movies and doing the subtitles.
Okay.
We started out with the drug lords, you know what I mean? And there's so many Spanish, productions that cover that subject really good. And but it's amazing. Like, we don't even think about it anymore. We'll just go, oh yeah, this. We don't even think about it being in Spanish, And I'll tell you something. You have to actually, and maybe this is part of the deal, you actually have to participate so closely in that by reading subtitles.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you've got your phone and you're flipping it, you'll miss the whole point of the show, and
Unless you
and
speak
so
Spanish,
I
of
think
course.
that's it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Lisa and I
So,
have been watching a series. I don't recall the title, but it's a French series. I kind of look at it as extended episodes of Law and Order. I think it's a 4 episode arc. Deadly Seasons is the name of it, and I just was
okay.
suddenly told in an inspiration the name. But what you're saying is true. It's all in French with English subtitles, and I've really enjoyed it. Stylistically, it's a little different than what we're used to here in the States.
Right.
But it's just refreshing to get a different take on the murder mystery, and it's scripted, which is not a lot of the work I've been doing lately. So it's refreshing to watch scripted material instead of documentary or reality material. So
Yes.
it's an
Yes.
injection of creative ideas and stuff, if you will.
No, that is a lot of fun. And we were watching a couple of Colombian productions, and I really love the storytelling in there. And I don't know how I could just say it was different, but they followed several different lines of the story at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and they did it so seamlessly. You never lost your place. There was never any feeling like you were interrupted with something, or, it went to too far of a different place. They did
Yeah.
it so brilliantly, and there was 60 episodes in this
Wow.
thing as well.
What was it called?
Which
What's the name?
it was Surviving Escobar, and
Surviving
it's the story of Escobar's hitman JJ, who turned out to be sort of a celebrity. I think he's passed away now, but turned out to be sort of a celebrity for being Escobar's hitman. But it showed the story, and I think there was a portion dramatized, but his story of being in jail. But it told a greater story of what was happening to the country of Colombia at that time.
Right.
Which was just I would suggest anyone watch that on Netflix. That was Surviving Escobar.
Okay.
So it was very good. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's I think one of the coolest things about the streaming services, particularly Amazon and Netflix, since they have such a vast library of material, international and domestic stuff, is you can get exposed to things that normally we would have never seen pre-streaming days. It was either cable TV, maybe
so
HBO, or Cinemax. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, well, to give you an example, when I was in the South Pacific recently working on a new series, the Netflix in that part of the world is different than the Netflix we have here in the States.
Okay.
And the cool thing about that is when you sign on to Netflix the first time thinking, oh, Netflix is Netflix. Well, it's not. There were shows there on that Netflix. I'm not even sure how to refer to it. The South Pacific Netflix, the Pacific region Netflix that I've never even heard of on the Netflix in the United States. And so again, it's that reach, that one service has to open up the world to film goers and those of us that are craving something a little different to enlighten us or entertain us, or just to give us a taste of somebody else's way of telling stories.
And now we are in this, and I think this is a greater subject too, but we are in this wonderful time where that is just opening up. Netflix is the first big player. They're all coming in now. So I'm very excited to see what we come up with in this. There's been a few, like I don't know if you've heard an app called, and we're just riffing now. I want to get to your story too, but
sure.
There was a new thing, an app called Quibi, and I went through that, and it was just like, to me, sort of the worst of cable TV made for the phone in 10-minute pieces. And I thought, please, 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 haven't we had enough of this? You know what I mean? Haven't we, I'm not ready to throw it out. You know what I mean? It's a baby. So, it can mature, it can find audiences, I'm sure. But I thought it was, at the first breath, I thought it was a bit of a waste. But Robert, let me not ramble on anymore.
Oh, no, hey, rambling is fun.
let's talk about your situation now. You were caught in a situation. You were filming down in the South Pacific. Mm-hmm. You were doing a project. You can't talk about the project. I understand that. You know what I mean? But you were caught in a situation when this COVID thing hit. Take us from there. Tell us about your process. What happened to you? Who was on your crew, and the process of getting out of there and back to the States?
Yeah, sure. Well, just to give you a little taste of what it is I was doing, people always say, well, I'm working on something, but I can't tell you about it, and that always kind of bugs me a little bit, because it's like, come on, give us a taste, right?
Why'd you tell me? Yeah.
Offline, I've given you probably more information than I'll ever talk about online for now, but, eventually the client will have a rollout, and they'll do a preview and a commercial and a trailer and promos and stuff. But it's for one of the major streaming platforms, and the premise of the show is we're working in different. Well, it's not the premise, but our locations are different parts of the world. We're in the South Pacific and Central America, and I was starting work on the show, the very initial beginning shooting in Tonga, and we were scheduled to be working in Tonga and American Samoa sequentially. And we started shooting some U.S.-based portions of the show in January. And at that point, everything was moving along fine, and our schedule was set to have us working in the South Pacific up until the middle of July, which we were all really excited about, because, the South Pacific is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful part of the world. And anyway, we got there in February and started working as normal. And that's just about the time this terrible over and spreading around the world. And I think that we were working in a part of the world that's a little bit more isolated. Tonga it's a kingdom made up of roughly over 120 islands, some large, some small. But the population of Tonga is roughly 100,000 people. And it's a place that's not easy to get to. It requires extensive travel just to arrive. I left from Spokane, flew to LA, from LA to Sydney to Auckland, and then Auckland into Nuku'alofa, Tonga. And that took me roughly 2 days, just with all the flight connections. Wow. So to get there, it takes a lot of effort. We had a crew from New Zealand and from the United States working together. We started in roughly February, and we were working up until about the middle of March. And that's when it became quite apparent that things were not going well around the rest of the world, when we started getting news of different television shows shutting down for one reason or another, especially the European shows, which was understandable considering what was happening there. And then our client, Disney, decided that their shows should start ceasing operation until further notice. And we literally were thinking, hey, we're on a small island. There's no cases of coronavirus in this part of the world. They've effectively limited who can come to the island. So we should be okay. So we really wanted to just keep going as long as possible. And then borders started closing, international flights ceased operation. And then we realized, okay, this is for real. We're probably going to have to stop and go home. And just at about that time, our amazing production team, our line producer and production manager, who those guys, I will give them props, day and night until the end of time. Those guys worked as hard as they possibly could to keep us going. But when it became apparent that we needed to leave, they jumped into action to find us a way to get back. Because at that point, Tonga was closed. The airport was closed. The borders were closed. You couldn't get there. You couldn't leave. That was the other problem. So for about 2 weeks, I'd say 2.5 weeks, we had no idea if we were going to be on extended leave in Tonga or if we were somehow going to find our way home to our respective countries. And I think there was a little bit of trepidation there that we may very well be stuck in Tonga for several months. And,
was that an active thought? Were you guys talking about that? Like, what do we do if we are stuck here?
We did have that conversation. And the other problem, well, we did have the conversation that we could continue working. I mean, if we can't leave, what else are we going to do with our time? Sit around the pool? But then came the lockdowns, which, the Kingdom of Tonga, despite the fact that it was still a coronavirus-free country, they decided to lock down their country as well, much like what we're doing in the United States, for purposes of, I think, mainly just to safeguard their society, and in case something happened, they'd be ready.
Prevention.
Yeah, exactly. Prevention.
Yeah.
So we were stuck in our hotel, and we're like, you know what? I think we really need to find a way to get home. So that's what happened. That's kind of a really wordy explanation, but we were able to get a couple of charter flights in to pick us and the cast up to take us back to the United States. And the New Zealand contingent of our crew, they had the same opportunity to go home. They only had a 3-hour flight. We had a 3-day flight. It was hilarious.
Wow.
You know, it wasn't hilarious. It was just, we all expected it would take a while. We flew from Tonga to Hawaii. We had to overnight in Hawaii, and then we flew from Hawaii back to LA. And with all the flight shutdown, or rather cancellations, there were not as many flights available to get people home to their destination. So
I'm sure.
Patience.
What was the flight like back from Hawaii? Is Hawaii just sort of abandoned now? Is there?
Well, we were really lucky to have. We were on a charter flight from Tonga to Hawaii, and the same flight from Hawaii to LA. So we didn't have to even go through the airport, the international airport there in Honolulu. We went to the side of the airport where the jets, the business jets, and so on, depart out of. So we were lucky we didn't have to deal with that. But once we got to LAX, it was pretty obvious things were different. I mean, I've got photos of me standing at the departures level in LAX, and there are no cars. There's no traffic. And I'm so used to that area just being bumper to bumper to bumper to bumper, you know. But, you know, it was a great, I shouldn't have graded, it was an experience. And our line producer said that was logistically the most difficult thing that he's ever had to do in his 25 plus years of producing. So it says a lot, but
wow.
It was
wow. I'm getting some feedback on that. Yeah, that's incredible, Robert. That's incredible. So at no time did you felt in danger. I mean, at no time did you feel like you were in a bad situation. And ironically, you were probably in one of the safest parts of the world if they didn't have any cases there at the time, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that's true. They didn't have any cases, but if there was an outbreak, it would be a much different story. And the people of Tonga are amazing. They're genuine. They're kind. They're really willing to do anything they have to make visitors feel welcome and comfortable. That said, I don't think the medical facilities are quite up to a level of being able to deal with something quite like coronavirus has been, especially in the United States. So I think it was a good thing that we left.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful place. I would go back in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I hear you. It sounds like a beautiful spot. I remember when you first went there, of course, there was not all this lockdown and things going on. I thought, man, that looks like the perfect place to be right now, you know, and it's quite envious. But when you're on a project like that, and you said you had just a really great production manager there with you and working on stuff, because that's who it's really rough on. That person is the point person for all of this stuff, you know. And you've got to get them out. It really makes all the difference having somebody who knows what they're doing, for sure, you know.
Well, you're right about that. And this situation was it was uncharted territory for everyone. No one has ever dealt with the fact that the entire world is shutting down. And with that scenario, how do you get people from one place on one side of the world to the other? You know, there's no rules. There's no written, you know, A, B, and C. You just literally have to make it up as you go. And just to give you some a little context, the line producer and production manager daily were talking to the ministers of health, the ministers of transportation, the people in charge of the airport, just to make sure that we were going to be able to bring an airplane from the United States and from New Zealand to get our crews home. And it could have changed minute by minute. I mean, I would look at these guys, I'd run into them in the hallway at the hotel, and I'd say, "Hey, Richard, how you doing?" And he would just look at me with this exhausted look on his face, and he would just shake his head. And that was usually a sign that things weren't going well. And then,
wow.
and then maybe an hour later, he'd be like, okay, I think we're back on course, and it's just, you never know. And so this kind of a situation, just from a logistics standpoint, is incredibly difficult for the production staff. But then they're also managing a TV show, so
right.
They have such a huge job on their hands. I have nothing but respect for those guys.
That's so awesome. That's awesome. And then they chartered you a plane. So you had a plane coming specifically for you, your crew, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And then they took you to your respective destinations from there.
Yeah. Once we got back to the States, in Los Angeles, I just jumped on a Delta flight, and the director I was working with, we both went to the Delta terminal, and he got on his flight. I got on my flight. We did the elbow bump before we left. It was kind of a token thing because we both came from a very safe place. So, obviously.
You were both the same. Yeah. Been on a plane for 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Well, I actually have a question.
Good to see everybody leave with a smile on their face. Yeah. I mean, that was the most important thing is we got home.
Well, and everybody's all right. Everybody's all right. That's the everybody made it home. That's the key element, tell me something like this. Maybe this is a good topic because I want everybody to know the process that you go through in a show like this. You know what I mean? What's your process when that show comes up? Just briefly, not in a lot of detail, but run me through the first phone call, how you get on board, what you discuss on that. Is it, rate, where you're going, what this thing. Just give me a quick synopsis of that.
Well, my first question to the showrunners when they contact me is, what's the story? What is the show about? And once we go through that, I like to talk about the aesthetics, visually, what's the language of the film or the TV show or whatever it might be. And I want to get as much information from them to help me inform some decisions I'm going to make, whether it be lens choices or camera choices or technology or, how are we going to go about capturing the ideas they have in their head? And as you know, those conversations begin more conversations and they blend together. And there's a lot of evolution of aesthetics that happen over a course of time before we even start shooting. And then once shooting begins, there is more evolution visually and literature-wise. And so my process really is just to ask as many questions as I can think of. And I also recognize the fact that I'm forgetting to ask questions that need to be asked. And I hope that I can remember those down the line. But there's, they always say preparation is everything. And that is absolutely the truth.
Yeah. So when you're in the process of that, you start getting down the road with what the show is and stuff. When does this discussion for rate come in? I mean, and how do you approach that? You know what I mean? Are you, when you're going out and you're going to Alaska, you're going to exotic locations, there's a disruption in your life. How do you handle that situation?
Oh, that's, those are a lot of questions in one. The rate thing is something that, the first, not one of the things I do like to bring up and just be very direct, what kind of rate are you offering? And it's hard to negotiate. I mean, that's one of the most uncomfortable things I think any of us have to go through is to negotiate what we think is fair for our services. Mm-hmm. So, once I'm given a number, I will think it over and decide, okay, if this kind of investment of my life is worth this much money, I'm going to come back to them and say, okay, this is what I feel like is fair. If you're going to ask me to be away from home for 8 months at a time, with maybe a week off every now and then, that to me equals this amount of compensation. And I feel like, it comes down to a question of what kind of lifestyle, what kind of meaning does your life have? And does it translate into dollars or does it translate into something else? And so there's a lot of philosophical questions I tend to ask myself when it comes to negotiating a rate.
Right. Okay.
And if they're flexible, then that's usually a good group of people to be with because then they recognize also that, hopefully your professional pedigree and abilities are worth discussion and meriting something a little better than what they're offering as a baseline.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's good. That's a good answer. I like that. Tony, do we have a couple questions in there? Do we have anything coming up?
We have a question. Can everybody hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what was going on before. So, yes, David Weber, who is watching, thank you for watching.
Oh, Dave.
Says, when you hit LAX, what was customs like getting back in the U.S.?
Okay, well, we didn't have to go through customs because we were on a business jet. So we were lucky we got to circumvent all of that. We actually hit immigration coming back into Honolulu. So once we landed in Honolulu, we were back in the American FAA controlled area. Interesting though, when we landed, the pilots, or I think it was either the pilots or the flight attendant, they just let us know, hey, when we land, before we can get off the plane, the fire department, Honolulu Fire Department, will come and take temperatures. Basically, we'll go through an enhanced health inspection to make sure that we were, able to land, basically. So the plane landed, customs came on board to check passports and just find out who we were, make sure we were who we said we were. And then that individual left the plane, and then we were able to leave two at a time, where fire department people did temperature checks to see if we were healthy. And once that was done, it was pretty much we were finished with any of the immigrations, customs, and otherwise. And at that point, we were back in the American system. So the next morning in Honolulu, we got back on our jet, flew to LAX, and we landed on the south side of LAX down by Atlantic Aviation in the business jet area. So we basically rolled out, got in a car, and drove to our hotel. Dave Weber.
Very good.
Dave Weber. Dave just sent me a text of him watching the show, a picture of him watching the show.
Right on, man.
I totally love. Thank you, Dave.
Send the text to me too, okay? I'm looking for it.
Yeah. Get that. It's very funny, very funny.
You want to take a look at some videos, Burnie?
Yeah, let's do that. You know what? I'll tell you. Let me just tell you this one thing. For the last 9 years, I have lived in this apartment here. I have had cable TV, and I cut the cable. The other day. But they took the box out, and I realized that's the only thing I've ever been referring to time for the last 9 years. So I keep looking over like this to look at it. I have no idea where we're at in the show. So, yeah, let's go. Let's look at some video, Tony.
Cool. All right, Robert, you can set this up. Let's take a look at the Alaska, the Last Frontier bit. The explosion.
Okay. So
I love the explosion.
I need to just apologize for the video quality is not quite up to my personal expectation because I was unable to get a copy of the completed cut. But this was from Alaska, The Last Frontier, Season 9, and I think it's episode 907. It's called Moving Mountains. And it was an episode where the Kilchers needed to move a mountain. So they brought a demolition expert in to help them, and they planted, I think it was like 55 charges in the side of a mountain, and we blew up a mountain. And the reason I wanted to show this and share with everyone is it's a fairly technical and complicated thing to do because you're dealing with explosives, which inherently are dangerous. But we did it on a very simple basis where we had a small crew. We had our cast, we had a couple of safety people, and our demolitions expert. The fun thing was I had 13 cameras to play with. I had 2 drones flying, and I had several cameras down on the ground. I think we had 5 GoPros, and the rest were C300s and an FS7 Mark II doing slow-mo. So it was kind of like, it felt like we were doing a big action movie because we had so many cameras rolling on this one event. And all right, anyway, that's enough talk. I hope people enjoy it if they haven't seen the show already.
All right, let's take a look.
Cool.
Ready for the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
expected it.
Oh my God, that's amazing. The explosion blew my mind. Oh my God.
Was that like better than death? Watch it for me. Oh my freaking God, the explosion was awesome. Woo-hoo! It is almost like standing in my mind. It was just standing up here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is the largest explosion I've ever witnessed. Far beyond my expectations. Desmond Duffy does darn good.
Donald,
There you go.
thank you, sir.
Hey,
For coming down and
you
helping
did a
us
very
with
good
that.
job.
That was amazing.
This blast was exactly what we wanted. Holes was drilled right, they were loaded right, the right quantity of powder was in each hole. It was initiated the right way, and it was delayed the right way, so it was an excellent blast, and everybody's happy.
Wow.
Boom.
Wow. That was unbelievable. That is a Michael Bay shot, dude. I mean, that is huge.
Oh man, it was fun.
Huge. It doesn't get bigger. Well, let's unpack this a little bit. You know, how many cameras total did you use in that?
We had 13 total, including the drones and the GoPros and the C300s and the FS7. So basically, just real simple camera placement. I needed to get coverage on the cast to get their reactions, and then I needed the money shot. So there was an Inspire that was up above that really nice shot up above, getting the entire mountainside blowing up. There was a second drone 90 degrees off to the side, angled toward the ocean, so you could see the mountain explode with the ocean in the background. And then we had, let's see, there was 1, 2, 3. There were 3 GoPros down on the dirt road where all the debris landed. So we were just hoping our cameras were in the right place, and we got lucky. So we got debris and logs, and I think one of the cameras was completely covered with dirt, and we had a hard time finding it later. We color taped everything, so at least we had ropes leading to where the camera used to be.
Yeah.
And then we had, there was an FS. Doesn't use slow motion, but we ended up, I think it made the cut towards the very end, toward the end credits. But yeah, it was 13 cameras, so it was like just as if we were doing a movie. I just, I took charge of the action. I just said, all right, you guys, to make this work, we need to go incrementally. Okay, so we'll start with safety. We'll make sure that the roads are locked up and that no one's going to come either direction. We've got a confirmation of that on walkie. Then once that was confirmed, we got the drones up in the air. Once the drones were in position, the drone pilots radioed back and said, all right, we're in position. Cameras are standing by. We got all of our cameras up on the ground with the cast ready to go. Once they were set, I said, okay, let's roll drones. Drones were rolling. I got confirmation the cameras were speeding. Then we rolled our cameras up on top. Those cameras were speeding. The GoPros had been rolling for about a half hour at that point. So I was just hoping the batteries didn't die. And then once all of our cameras were rolling and we were set, I turned it over to the demolitions expert, who's that really great character with the beard, an Irishman, hilarious, so much fun to work with. Then it was his show, and I said, you are the expert, take it. And they just did their thing, and we just kind of followed it as best as we could. So it was a lot of fun, man. It was
yeah. What was your setup time like that? So all of that you just unpacked for us there, how long did that take you from the guys putting the charges in? And was that done like the day before, or did you do it all in the same day?
No, they did. They had to drill holes. I think there were roughly 50 holes, vertical holes in that mountainside that needed to be drilled. So it was a very methodical, safe, slow process. They didn't want to speed up and just fast track anything. So I think we started 2 days before the actual filming to set the explosives. Everything was set in the ground. And here's the thing that's important that I learned about was everything in the ground was safe until the fuses are set and the lines are drawn and everything runs back to the board and it's connected to the detonator. So, it was a safe procedure to work around. But once everything was set, we backed off the mountain, set up our cameras, and but the actual filming period, I mean, it took us maybe a half hour from the time that we were up on that hillside ready to go.
Wow. Once you were set. And how long did it take you to set those cameras?
We talked through the positioning initially when we started drilling the holes, because we needed to consider time of day, which, as you can see, it was later in the afternoon, time of day, weather, and distance. There was initially a conversation to keep us back even further. And I said, with safety in mind, I think we should try to get a little closer so that we can see the entire thing happen with our cast in frame, because that'll sell it. Otherwise, if we're doing the reverse shot, it just doesn't feel quite as, authentic. And, we were a good half mile away when that thing went off. So it was, or maybe a quarter mile away. So it was pretty safe.
We have a couple of questions for you, Robert.
Sure. Yeah,
cool.
Let's go.
Yeah. David Weber, again, thanks, David. Did all the cameras make it out alive from the explosion?
Yes, they did. The GoPros were covered with dirt and soot and everything, but they survived, and the footage is in there to see. So thank you.
All right. We got another one. We got somebody watching over on Twitter. I love this. Thanks for watching, Roger.
Awesome. Thank you, Twitter.
How many of the angles of the 13 made it into the final cut?
I believe all of the cast coverage made it in. Both drone shots. I think all three of the GoPros did. There might have been one of the C300s that did not. And the slow-mo is right at the end of the episode, right before they roll the end credits. So, and I think I may have sent you a clip of that. So I think basically all but one or two cameras. It was, once it happened, the funny thing is once it happened, even the operators, we were all angled on the cast, so the mountain was behind us, and there was a lot of this going on. Whoa! And then we were so some of the footage probably could have been on the app, but hey, whatever. It's a documentary.
Hey, quick shout out to Jack Cummings. Always a great show, Burnie. But thanks for watching, Jack. Really appreciate that. But that's all we got for questions. We got more videos, pictures.
We got a lot of viewers. Thank you, guys. Awesome. Let's take a look at some pictures. Why don't you walk us through some pictures right now and just give us some feedback on what you were doing that day, what you were setting up. Just kind of give us an overview of your process,
Okay. This is how we really shoot TV shows. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Let's get real.
Okay. Well, I mean, we were location scouting that day, and that was myself and Malcolm Clement, one of our New Zealand camera operators on this recent project. And we were literally trying to frame up shots that we might utilize. And, we're both doing the same thing, but we're just trying to come up with some ideas on how to cover a scene a certain way. So it looks kind of silly, but we literally were working.
It looks like you're fishing, actually.
Well, maybe we were going to film a fishing scene later. That could have happened.
Yeah. There you go. That's perfect. Yeah. So, and then what are we looking at here?
This is with Brent Lofke. He's an Orange County-based director, and this was several years ago. You know Brent. Sure. I was shooting it was a marketing project for an OC-based company there in Irvine that builds batteries. And this is a semi-truck. It's the cab, and I'm underneath the cab shooting the batteries. I had a lot of trust in the guys that propped that thing up so it was safe. But it was was a great experience working with Brent. Brent's one of the most prepared directors I've ever worked with, because he comes in with basically the shot list, literally the shot list that he wants to try and get. And it's almost paint by numbers from that standpoint. He's got so much experience too. You move really, really quick.
Oh, Brent's Brent's a total pro.
Yeah. No, I love working with Brent. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Real quick, Robert. David Weber wants to know, what framing app do you use?
Framing app. For my iPhone? I'm assuming it was for the previous shot.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think that day we may have just been using our iPhone cameras just to get a general idea of what might or might not work. I normally would carry around a DSLR with, a set of lenses to kind of frame that way. But I think that day it was just sort of run and gun. We were just trying to get through the day and visit a bunch of different locations. So sorry, not anything really, really interesting there.
Yeah. We got somebody. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is an example of working really closely with your crew. The guy in the foreground is one of the best and most enjoyable field producers I think I've ever worked with, and very organized, good guy. The dude behind there is our first AC, Charlie, and he actually lives in Anaheim. So I love working with him.
Okay. Great.
Robbie there in the foreground, he's from Thousand Oaks. So a good contingent of California crew guys, shooting with a couple of FX9s and Cooke S4 lenses. I believe we were doing an interview, and Malcolm is on the far side. You can't really see him, but love those cameras. Of course, the Cooke look is one of my favorites for primes, and we're just having a good day there. Charlie, I have to give him props. He's probably my favorite first AC I've worked with ever. Guy's always prepared, doing things that I don't even think of or ask for. And in this case, it was 1,000,000 degrees out there, and he pops up with an umbrella, gives us a courtesy just to cool us down a little bit. Sometimes the smallest things you go the longest way. It's
the most important.
Yeah,
for sure.
I always say, don't forget to say thank you to your camera assistants, because those guys will keep you rolling and they will make or break your day for you.
Oh, they will save your life, dude. Your AC, your whole crew. You should be a unit. They should be working towards that goal. You know what I mean? That's why it's so important. What else have we got, Tony? We got more picks?
This is we got Malcolm and Lance. These guys work so hard, and you can see how sweaty they are. But they work hard. Tonga is like working in a hot yoga session all day long. And these two guys, never did I see them not smiling and just happy to be working. And man, the work the material they shot, I was sitting and watching and just humbled. They just kick ass. So a couple of great guys, and I hope to get back together with them again and finish up this show.
That's great. Just
shooting a little B-roll there on the side of the ocean there.
Yeah.
Some coral. Big 300 millimeter lens.
And Tony,
It's
go ahead.
300 mil lens with a doubler. So shooting waves at 600 mil, 120 frames per second can be pretty exhilarating to see through the lens. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Now I can't see the pictures from where I'm at here. I'm just getting your feed. So you tell me what we're looking at, because I can't see them.
All right. Location scout and some caves. Just checking out a possible shooting location. Don't want to say too much more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm already going to get in trouble. Okay. This is actually really, this is interesting. Several years ago, I was hired to do some plate photography for a television show that I think never went to series, but it was for CBS, called the 11th. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name. It's something like the 11th district or 13th district. It was a science fiction show, but anyway, we were shooting plates for driving shots basically. And as you can see, we have 3 5Ds mounted. We were shooting video, and that would be projected or composited on green screen shots of the principal cast when their coverage was shot on stage, essentially doing their driving scenes. And then this stuff is composited in the background to look as though they're driving through the city streets of San Francisco. So pretty simple rig.
Very interesting.
This is an oldie but goodie. Brian Tweed, one of my good old friends from, I think he,
I know Brian Tweed very well. Yeah.
Known him for so long. I can't remember when we met, but we were doing a shoot in Ortega Wilderness, or it was on Ortega Highway. I don't remember the name of the park, but there in Orange County, looks like we've got one of his cranes out there and some different cameras on tripods. It was a documentary shoot. Really good time.
Yeah.
This is a shot from 2 years ago. I was in New Orleans doing some interstitials for an LA-based marketing company, and we're doing some period stuff. It was a lot of fun, and a little bit more of the period stuff in New Orleans, shooting with the Sony FS7 Mark II, just doing some little commercials and promos and such. Okay, this one here, Burnie. It's too bad you can't see these photos because they're
yeah. I'm just seeing your feed right now, unfortunately.
Okay.
Tony, is there any help you can give me on that?
Let's see. We're looking at
let's keep going.
Burnie. We're taking a look at this is a location shot from Alaska, from The Last Frontier. This is Josh McHale, one of the camera operators, and as you can see, it's pretty vast and snowy, and that was kind of the name of the game. We'd go out and all kinds of weather situations and environments and try to get good material. Every day was a challenge because you didn't know really what to expect. And, it tests your ability to be prepared and to think on your feet. And Josh was fantastic. Like, he turned in some of the best material I've ever seen. So you get lucky, with the people.
That's great. No, that's great. And, when you're in a wilderness, I'm looking at it my phone right now, but when you're in the wilderness out there like that, this is one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. You are actually in the wilderness. I mean, you can get lost, you can get hurt. That's the real world out there. I mean, maybe more dangerous to be in traffic. I don't know, but certainly you have to have a whole different situational awareness when you're working like that.
Yeah, you do, and that's really true. And it's you have to be aware of your situation, but you also have to keep in mind what you're there for, and you can't let your work slide while you're trying to navigate through the forest. You still have to. It's a weird balance, and some guys get it, and some guys don't. It's an acquired skill, I believe.
Right.
Right now, we're just looking at a shot. I was doing a documentary film years ago in China about it was an artist, a Chinese artist, and we were shooting in the Forbidden City. And my camera assistant, he loved to shoot stills, and so he was just firing off some stills. And
that's a great shot, dude. That's a great shot. Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's perfect. That says on the road right there. Where's this one at?
This is St. Petersburg, Russia. So
wow.
The documentary shoot. We were on the Neva River doing some work on a boat. Unfortunately, I don't really have many shots of the cast. Just it's that thing where, clients want to keep everything under wraps until their show is finished, and so I try not to shoot a lot of photos of cast members or the production happening.
Oh yeah, you got to stay away from that for sure.
Requests. So
a
little bit more China footage here.
Great Wall.
On the Great Wall. Yep.
Yeah.
And this is just
that's beautiful.
This is an example of what I get to see. I feel lucky and blessed to be able to see this kind of stuff when I'm working. We were filming an episode for Last Frontier, and I had my still camera with me, my 35 millimeter, my film camera. And I had a moment where I could just fire off some stills, and, this is completely unplanned and unrehearsed. It just was happening, and I decided to fire off some shots. And I don't know, this is one of the perks of the job.
So beautiful. Yeah, no, to go everywhere and see everything, that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it.
True. Little night
this
shot
right here. What are we looking at?
Oh, this is a night exposure in Alaska again. So much Alaska stuff. I promise I can do other projects.
And what part of Alaska are you actually in? What is it? The southern part on the Panhandle?
It's the southern. It's south central. So if you were in Anchorage and you went due south by car about 4 hours, you'd hit the Kenai Peninsula, and Homer, Alaska is the location, is the base. Operation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, previous to that, I was the director of photography for another series, but it was in Southeast Alaska, quite a bit further south, closer towards Seattle or Pacific Northwest. A much different look, but still very much Alaska, in the respect that the people live off the land and they spend a lot of time kind of, forging their own destiny and doing their own thing. And I think that in general, that's kind of what's typical of Alaskans. They tend to want to do their own thing without much help from outsiders. And that makes for very good documentary film and television material, because they lead lives that are fascinating and different from what you and I are used to.
Sure. No, whole different world, right? Whole different set of survival values.
Absolutely.
Well, Robert, dude, this has been, once again, the hour goes so fast when you're doing these and talking to a friend even more. Tell us, first of all, how can we get a hold of you? How does somebody get a hold of Robert Jolley?
You can find me on, I'm on Facebook under Robert Jolley, and I'm also on Instagram. I have an Instagram handle of Film4You. It's film, the number 4, YOU. And then I also have another one. It's Robert Jolley, Jolley spelled Jolley, DP. So those are the three places that are best to find me. And I don't do Facebook as much as I used to, but I do log on there occasionally. And so if you send me a message there or on Instagram, I will respond.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. Now, what's on the agenda? What does your schedule look like? Are you just in lockdown? Do you have any date to come back?
No dates yet. We're just kind of standing by and hoping that our network and the production company will find the value in putting us back to work to finish doing the marvelous project that we started. I feel so proud and happy just for for the month and a half that we were able to shoot. The material we got exceeded my expectations, and I know the clients were really happy. It was a great start, and then to just be shut down, cold turkey like this, it was really difficult for everyone. But I'm going to be very optimistic and say that I think we will be back to work. I don't know when. My guess would be September, October, realistically. But no one knows. In the meantime, I'm so used to the stop and go nature of this business that I'm going to just mentally. This is a stop period, and maybe it'll be a little longer than what we like, but determination, optimism, just patience. I think those are going to be the big determiners as to whether we all come out of this and semi-sane or ready to go.
Robert, a couple of people have asked you to repeat your contact info, and for those watching, we'll actually put it in the comments as well. So
definitely. Yeah. So I'm on Facebook under Robert Jolley, and I'm also on Instagram. My Instagram name account is Film4You. It's film, the number 4, and then YOU. I also have a second one. It's Robert Jolley DP, and my last name is Jolley. It's just a common mistake people make. Totally understandable. It's EY.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Robert, cannot thank you enough, my brother, for being with us today. And it's a pleasure just to get to talk to you again. I can tell you that,
Burnie, thank you.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, buddy. Thank you. All right. And that is, I think, today's Burnies Applebox. We will see everyone back here at 2 o'clock next Friday. And I've got a guest, but I'm not going to announce her yet. But you're going to love this woman. She is a very knowledgeable person. So we will see you next Friday on Burnies Applebox. Thank you, Robert.
You bet. Right. Thank you, Burnie. Thanks, Tony.
All right.